I'm going to try to sum up for you some advice going into elk season. There's a lot of information out there. You could spend a lot of time digesting, tactics and calling and ideas and, little tips and tricks. But there's so much out there, and if you haven't been a student of this for a very, very long time, it's kind of hard to compress that all into a format that you can use when you're actually out in the field. I know myself included, there's so many things, so many ideas of doing the podcast and everything. So I talk to a lot of guys. So I get a lot of information that gets given to me. And then I have all the information that I've acquired myself and all the experience that I've acquired myself hunting elk for about 30 years. So, you have all this stuff flowing in your head and you want to be able to be successful. So, let me preface this. I am not a championship caller. I am not getting on stage and winning any kind of trophy for my sound quality. But I have been a student of learning the language for a very long time. Follow a lot of important guys out there, Paul Medell, Corey, Joel, and a lot of these big name guys that you've probably listened into before. So what I found is, yes, it is important for you to sound good, but you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have that trophy quality sound. You don't have to have that stage quality presence. But what you do need is to know when, where, and what sounds to make. So I'm going to kind of help try to compress this into a smaller, more digestible video for you, and to give you the basic tools to help you decipher what your move is going to be when you're out there in the field. So I'm going to start off with location bugle. I'm a bugle forward guy. I like the sound of the bugle. I like hearing elk bugle back to me. It just interests me. So although that's not to say that that's the best tactic at any given moment, but if you're out there, you're locationing bugle. Well, let me start off by giving you an example of what a location bugle is. Let me get a readout here. So your location bugle, you want it to be clean. No growls, no real aggression. You kind of want to start on a note, bring it up high, and then cut it off. No chuckling or anything like that. Just try to be clean and smooth. So it's going to go something like this. I actually broke a little bit in that. You heard that little waver. That's not necessary. In fact, I don't even know if that's realistic. But you can see that I went, kind of started low and then ramped up real high and held a note for a couple of seconds, and then I just dropped it off. And that's what's important. So what are we doing with that sound? Well, we're hoping that we're going to get an answer back. Now, that answer back is what you need to be paying attention to, because it's going to tell you a lot. If you get a very similar bugle answered back to you, more than likely that elk is doing the same thing that you are doing, and that's looking for love. It's just a roll call. I'm throwing out a roll call. Hey, I'm over here. He did it back. Hey, I'm over here. And that bull is probably not going to be interested in another bull. It's more than likely that bull does not have cows and is seeking cows. Not 100%, but that is the rule of thumb. So what are we going to do with that information? Well, depending on where it came from, and if he continues to bugle and it seems to be getting further away, if he seems to be getting further away and he continues to bugle, might not be your best option to go after him because he just might be cruising. But if that bugle comes back, you can try another bugle, try another location bugle at him, answers back again and hasn't moved. That is a bull that you can probably call in with cow sounds. So I would put the bugle tube away, I would cut the distance, and then I would start using my cow sounds going to it. What if you location bugle and you immediately got a warning or challenge bugle back? Well, that bull is telling you that he's got cows. So now you have a couple of different options at this point. If you're going to go into a bull that has cows, cut the distance. I think cut the distance on is key without making sound on any of them. Get as close as you can without having to relocate them. But you have a couple different options. You can go in there with calf sounds. You could go in there with cow sounds, calf and cow sounds. You can go in there being another bull rather, and challenge him. Or you can go in there and be another bull and talk to his ladies. I'm sure you've heard bull calling cows bugle. I'm sure you've heard the roundup bugle. They're very similar bugles. It's an elk speaking to the cows. So we're going to go through. I'm going to give you examples of all these. First, this is going to be the roundup bugle or bull calling cows bugle. So with the bull calling cows bugle, I'm going to keep calling it that because that's where it seems to get the most traction and people understand it the best. It's pretty simple. It's kind of like what people would think of a wimpy sounding bull, and it's kind of like a wavery moan into a lip ball or sputtering into your bugle tube, bringing it up high and then cutting it off real sharp. And it goes something like this. That's the simplest way that I found that it works really well. You could perfect that. You're probably not, I'm filming this on the phone, so it's probably not doing the sound justice. But you get the idea. It's just a, right? It's real cutthroat, real to the point and short. And when you're doing that, the bull's either going to respond with a challenge, and you have a couple different options. You can continue to talk to his cows, or you can challenge him back at that point and tell him, no, hey, you, buddy, I'm still in your ladies. Either or, I found works. And this is not something, I could give you a rule of thumb and say, hey, do this or do that, and you're going to have the best outcome. You got to kind of feel the temperature out. If he challenges you and you can hear branches break in and you're close enough to hear him that he's already coming, shut the hell up. If he challenges you and then he starts rounduping bugle, that means he's about to leave and he's not going to come and see you. It means he's trying to get his cows together, round them up, and take off. So at that point, you got not a whole lot of time to either close the distance, challenge him again, or talk to his ladies again, start raking a tree, do something that says to him, hey, this guy's already got one of my cows, or this guy's not going to leave me alone. I got to go take care of him right now. So hopefully that situation works out for you. But if you chose to go in and be a little bit less aggressive and a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for here? Like aloof or non-combative, and you want to go in there with the cow sounds. Calf sounds are excellent. I find myself using them more and more as years go on. And a lot of the guys that I look up to in the elk hunting world are starting or have been using them more and more. And these are really short, high-pitched, repetitive mews. You got to think of it this way. It was put to me this way actually on my podcast, I believe by Joel Turner, that like even in the human world, if you hear a baby crying or you hear a baby calling out, it's a natural response for you to go and help that baby and go and want to be, offer your assistance to that baby. So calf sounds are excellent, and this is the way we like to do. This is the way I like to do calf sounds. I like to do the lost calf, and I will call my way into the herd until I get to a certain point that I feel like if I keep going, I'm going to give away that I'm a human in their territory. So here it is. So calf sounds, short, high-pitched, and repetitive. I've heard calves, I got calves on film that just do this for like 10 minutes straight. I'm not saying you're gonna do it like that, but very much like this. Another good tactic is the calf and cow that we talked about a little bit earlier. If you want to go in there and be a calf and a cow trying to join the group, again, you can use those same calf sounds that I just showed you, and you can add in a cow as well. And you can sound like different cows by changing reeds, changing pitches, throwing it in different directions, and so on and so forth. So you could even be a group of cows coming in. The other part of that same scenario is being a cow that is excited. And I don't know if you've ever heard that, it's like a shrilly type. If you look on YouTube, you will find it. You can hear cows doing it, and it's very, it's an excited cow that is, I've heard is ready to breathe, but the reality of it is they're just anxious about something. They are demanding a response, whether it's because they're lost, whether it's because they want to be bred, whether it's because they want to be heard, they're just the angry wife, whatever the case may be. But it tells the bull that, hey, I'm here and I mean business. And you can see that's almost not cow sounding. It's very like almost obnoxious. But that seems to be a sound that cows make, and it seems to elicit response from bulls. Okay, so that was if you got a response back from your location bugle. If you're not getting responses back from your location bugle, one of the things that I've found, and honestly, I almost don't even location bugle anymore off the bat. I like lower, less audible sounds, a little bit more. A lot of times I'll actually use, I call it a moan. I don't know if it's really called a moan or not, but it's going to be something like this. Real, like, how does anything hear that? But believe it or not, that is my go-to. I'll start with that first. And then typically, and this is something I actually learned from Shannon Mobbs some years ago, that will be my first. If I don't get a response back with that, once or twice I'll do that. I might actually do that and then follow it right after with words with a chuckle, which again, I don't think is going to sound good in the phone, but I'll do that for you real quick. Just that like barely chuckled sound right after. And if you've elk hunted long enough, you've heard that in the woods where there's like this little that seems to, especially if the bull is in close proximity and does not respond, will not respond to a location bugle, they'll respond to that. The other thing that I will do is, like I said, I learned this from Shannon Mobbs, and that is to do kind of like a bark sound and then go into my bugle. So do one of these. For some reason, the bark beforehand, and this is the way it was described to me, so I'm going to use Shannon's words exactly. It seems to like wake them up, like, hey, there's an elk in that area, and then they pay attention to the bugle for some reason or another. Those are other ways that I use to elicit some response. Two of the other sounds I like to make or like to use are not actually sounds that you use your bugle tube or reed for. I became a really big fan in the last 10 years of raking a tree. It's something I kind of did willy-nilly up until then, and it wasn't until a bull that I shot here in 2013 with a friend of mine, Daniel Drown, was actually behind me, and he was raking a tree and he was doing a lot of that, like working the trees, cow calling, and he actually, for the first time, having seen that in action and the way that the bull responded to it, is something that I started to incorporate immediately after very frequently. Now, when there's raking a tree, the best tactics to use, and when do you want to just rake a tree instead of using a bugle? Well, raking a tree obviously introduces a bull, and what you're saying by raking a tree is 8 times out of 10, if I'm a bull and I'm raking a tree in the middle of the rut, I am showing off for neighboring cows. Can I rake a tree beforehand? Can I just be raking a tree because I'm frustrated and there's nothing around me and I'm just exercising my neck, getting rid of some testosterone? Yes. But like I said, for the most part, if you're raking a tree, it's because you're, I think Paul Waddell calls it displaying. That's a good way. You're showing off for a cow or a group of cows. So if I'm doing this, I'm telling the bull that I am trying to lure away one of his cows. So again, in a situation where you have a bull, he has cows, you slip in, you might see the cows, you may not see the cows, but you know he's got cows because of the way he reacted. Raking a tree is telling that bull that I am talking to, I'm showing off, I'm strutting my stuff off in front of these ladies. So he is very likely to come in to run you off. Now, given what he does, how he reacts, he might bugle, he might challenge you, he might just round up bugle and take his ladies and go, like I said earlier. So it's real important for you to pay attention, take temperature of the situation. But this is, if you're interjecting this type of sound, know what you're saying to that bull, and this is what you're saying. Another sound just like that is the glunk. Now, glunking is a sound that bulls make while they're pursuing a hot cow, while they are behind. And if you're a whitetail hunter, you understand this very well. When a buck is trailing a doe and he's grunting, that's the same thing that a bull is doing when he's glunking. He is, it's a, I don't know, I'm not know bull biology, but it's a frustration sound, or it's a sound that he's sweet talking her. I don't know, but it is a sound that they make when they are chasing cattle. I think that's it. Like, just without making this like a hour long, 2 hour long actually tutorial, I just wanted to give you guys some tips and some ideas to go with where you're out there, and paying attention to what you're listening to. Get on YouTube, listen to some live elk making sounds, and while you're doing that, think about it. Okay, what bugle did that bull just make? Okay, and then try to see, hey, if I was in that position, what would I do? These are little things you can do 30 days out, to basically hone, to polish up the steel, get yourself ready, and make the right decisions while you're out there. Thank you. We'll see you out in the field.